Chapter 4. Whale Girl. So, I don't eat. I don't bite, I don't chew, I don't swallow. Simple. Only of course it's not simple at all. It's the hardest thing ever. I think of nothing else all day long. Breakfast is no problem. I wake so hungry that I feel weak and queasy, and the sight of Dad chomping and eggs slurping puts me off food altogether. Anna and I sip black coffee in a smug, sisterly way. School dinners are easily solved too. The smell steals along the corridors and invades the classroom, and just at first, my nose twitches, my stomach rumbles, and my mouth drools desperately. But it's easier actually in the canteen, where the smell is overwhelming and the sight is sickening if I try hard enough. It's as if I'm wearing new lenses in my glasses. The sausages become charred penises, obscenely pink where the skins are split. The pizza looks diseased, oozing bloody tomato and pus-yellow cheese. The baked potatoes steam like horse droppings. It's easy to back away. It's far harder when Magda and Nadine offer me food. Magda presses a whole slice of her mother's homemade pecan pie on me at break, and before I can contaminate it with my thoughts, I've eaten it all, the sweet moistness sliding straight down my throat in seconds. It's so good I feel tears in my eyes. I've been near starving for days, and it's so wonderful, easing that gnawing need inside me. And yet as soon as it's all gone and I'm left with sticky lips and crumbs on my fingers, I'm horrified. How many calories? 300? 400? Maybe 500? All that syrup, all that butter, all those wickedly fattening pecans. I say I have to go to the cloakroom, but Magda and Nadine come too. I can't thrust my fingers down my throat and throw up because they're near me. They'd hear me. Nadine is forever nibbling at Kit Kats and Twixes. It's so unfair. How can she stay so skinny? And her white skin is flawless. She doesn't even get spots. She eats her chocolate bars absent-mindedly, snapping off a couple of pieces every so often, offering them to Magda and me. Nadine, I'm on a diet, I say, brushing her hand away. Yeah, you and your diets, Ellie, says Nadine. So, okay, in the past I've tried dieting, but never seriously. This time it's different. It has to be. It's even harder when I get home. I'm so used to eating tea the minute I get in from school. Bread and honey, oatcakes and cheese, bunches of grapes, hot chocolate, homemade shortbread. Good, wholesome, wonderful food. No, bad food that bloats me into a great big wobbly blob. I can't eat it. I won't eat it. Anna doesn't argue. She makes eggs his own tea, and we have ours, celery and carrot sticks and apple wedges. We snap and crunch briskly. Eggs wonders if he is missing out on anything. He demands a stick of celery too. It doesn't taste of anything, he says, astonished. I don't like it. We don't like it either. Then you're silly to eat it, says Eggs. Dad thinks we're even sillier. He watches Anna and me cut our one slice of ham and quarter our own one tomato and eat our way through endless lettuce leaves for supper. You're both nuts, he says. What are you doing? Going on this crazy diet? You're still matchstick thin, Anna, and I don't know what's got into you, Ellie. You've always been a girl who loves her food. Meaning I've always been a fat pig, so why don't I stay one? I say, choking on my forkful of lettuce. It stays in my throat, rank, moist vegetation. What am I doing, trying to eat it? I spit it out into a paper hanky, shuddering. Yuck! Ellie spat! I'm not allowed to spit, am I, Mum? Just be quiet, Eggs. Don't do that, Ellie. I didn't say you were fat, for God's sake. That's what you meant. No, I didn't. You're not fat. You're... Yes? What am I? You're just ordinary nice girl size, Dad says desperately. Nadine and Magda are ordinary nice girls, but I'm much fatter than them, aren't I? I don't know. Of course you know. Magda's got a lovely figure. You certainly should know that, Dad. You can't keep your eyes off her when she calls round. Ellie, says Anna sharply. And Nadine is so thin and gorgeous she's going to be a model for Spicy magazine, I shout, leaving the table. I charge up to my room, crying. I stare at myself in my mirror, hoping I might look tragic with tears coursing down my face, but I just look blotchy. My nose is running. I have slimy green lettuce stuck to my teeth. And I'm still fat. Fat. I've hardly eaten for days and I've only lost 4 pounds. I stand on the scales stark naked every morning and I strip off when I come home from school and try again last thing at night. 4 pounds sounds a lot when you look at 2 bags of sugar. But I don't know where it's come off me. My cheeks are still puffed out like a frog. My body still bulges. My bum wobbles. My hips spread. I feel myself swelling up all over so that the mirror can barely contain me. It turns out it's true about Nadine. She comes waltzing into school waving a letter. Ellie, Magda, you'll never guess what. I guess. We guess. The whole class guesses, circling Nadine in awe. Are you really going to be a model, Nadine? Well, it's just the first heat on the 19th of December up in London, but they say there were heaps of girls, thousands, who didn't make it through to this stage. Thanks, Nadine. I know my place. Bottom of the heap, says Magda. Here, maybe I left home before the post came. Maybe I'm through to the first heat too. What's going on, girls? Says Mrs. Henderson, coming into the classroom. You're all buzzing like a hive of bees. Well, we're just the drones. Nadine's the queen bee, I say. It comes out a little too sharply. I smile at Nadine to show her I'm just joking. She's so out of her head with excitement she doesn't even notice. Oh God, she looks so beautiful. Of course she'll end up the winner. A cover girl on Spicy magazine, says Mrs. Henderson, eyebrows raised. Isn't Nadine lucky? The class chorus. I'm only in the first heat, Nadine says modestly. I don't think I'll ever make it. I'll be so nervous on the 19th. What's happening then? Says Mrs. Henderson, her hands on her hips. That's when I have to go to the studio in London. We all have to wear these special clothes and pose. Oh, Nadine, you'll actually be modelling. Modelling, Mrs. Henderson repeats, but she puts an entirely different spin on the word. She makes it sound as if it's the last thing in the world she'd want to do. I feel a shameful stab of relief. Then I look at Mrs. Henderson properly. Fat chance she'd ever have of being a model. Fat being the operative word. Well, she's not fat, but she's still stockily built, with big muscles, and her grey sweatsuit fits a little too snugly. When are you intending to go to the studio, Nadine? In the evening? You will make sure this is a properly supervised modelling session, won't you? Take your mother with you, says Mrs. Henderson. I'm not going with my mum, says Nadine. But it's okay, Mrs. Henderson. It's totally respectable. There'll be heaps of other girls there, and it's in the daytime. The daytime, says Mrs. Henderson. She pauses. Then you'll be at school. It's on Saturday, Mrs. Henderson. Ah, just as well. But you'd have let me have a day off school anyway, wouldn't you, Mrs. Henderson? Dream on, Nadine, says Mrs. Henderson briskly. I shall expect you to volunteer for extra PE lessons to keep you in beautifully toned condition. Dream on, Mrs. Henderson, says Nadine, a little too cheekily. Nadine ends up tidying the sports equipment cupboard in her lunch hour. Magda and I help her out. They eat crisps and swig Coke as we coil ropes and assemble hoops and herd netballs into neat piles. I sip mineral water, first one can and then another. Have you turned into a camel, Ellie? Says Magda. What do you mean? I say defensively, looking down at my bulging body. Are you saying I look like I've got humps? No, I'm saying you've got a thirst like a camel. That's your second can, isn't it? So sorry I asked, says Magda, pulling her face at Nadine. You're drinking and yet you're not eating anything, says Nadine, thrusting her bag of crisps under my nose. Eat, Ellie. A few measly little crisps aren't going to make you fat. I scoff them all the time. Meaning you're the one with the thin as a pin model looks, and yet you can still eat crisps, I say. Meaning nothing. What's the matter with you, Ellie? Don't be such a grump. Sorry. I am sorry too. I know I'm being paranoid. I know Magda and Nadine aren't getting at me. I'm the one who keeps griping at them. I grit my teeth and try hard to act normally, but it's so hard when I want to snatch handfuls of their salty golden crisps and cram them into my mouth. Bagful after bagful. I raise my second can to my lips and drain it. I hiccup. I feel totally waterlogged, a great bloated balloon, but I still don't feel full. I haven't eaten since yesterday's supper, and that was only salad. I've decided now that I'm going to stick to one meal a day until I've lost at least a stone. 6 more hours to go. I start stacking quoits energetically to divert myself. I bend and stretch, and then the store cupboard lurches sideways, and I grab at Nadine. Ellie! She's fainting, says Magda. No, I'm not, I mumble. The cupboard whirls round and round, the walls closing in on me. Put her head between her legs, says Magda. You what? Says Nadine. It's a recovery position, nutcase. Here, Ellie, sit down. Put your head right down too. You'll be better in a minute. I'm better now, I say. The cupboard is still spinning, but slowly. Shall I go and get Mrs. Henderson? Asks Nadine. No. You're still ever so pale, Ellie. I'm always pale. I just went dizzy for a minute, that's all. No big deal. Well, no wonder you're going dizzy if you won't eat, says Nadine. You and this stupid diet. Don't start that again. You know the best way to lose weight, says Magda, taking a discus in either hand and trying to flex her muscles. Exercise. That's what you should do, Ellie. Ellie, exercise? Nadine laughs. We are famous for being the least sporty girls ever, but I've been privately experimenting recently. I tried doing sit-ups in my bedroom to firm up my horrible wobbly tummy, but I'm so useless at it, I can only sit up at all if I wedge my toes under the chest, a drawers handle. I practically pulled my toes right off. They've still got painful mauve grooves across them now. I've also tried jogging to school, though I felt ultra stupid and hoped everyone would think I was running for a bus. I only managed to go the length of 2 streets before collapsing. I was so sweaty I was terrified I'd overwhelm the efficiency of my mum roulette, and I had to keep my distance from everyone all day long. I know exercise is a good idea, I say. It's not that I don't want to do it. I can't. You know how useless I am, Magda. It's only because you're not fit, Magda persists. How about going to a gym? Please, says Nadine, shaking her long locks in horror. Go on, Ellie, you might find it fun. There's a special early gym session down the leisure centre. We could meet up before school, says Magda. What? Stop it, says Nadine. You two are going completely bananas. It's like something out of the X-Files. My two best friends have been taken over by crazed zombies. First, Ellie gets this thing about being fat and gives up eating altogether. Ellie, the girl who once ate 3 Mars bars on the trot. And now Magda's saying she wants to get up at the crack of dawn and go and work out in a gym. Why? I wonder if Magda's desperately envious about Nadine's modelling chance too. Then my brain starts working properly. This guy you met in the soda fountain, he doesn't happen to have an early morning gym session, does he? I say. Ah, says Nadine. No, Jamie doesn't, says Magda. He's not into anything physical apart from sex. He can't keep his hands to himself. He's like an octopus. I'm not going out with him again. No, but Jamie wasn't the one you really fancied. It was the dark, dishy one, Mike. Mick. Oh, he is so gorgeous. He was round at Jamie's place the other day. He sat next to me on the sofa and, okay, we weren't even touching, but it was like these electrical currents were going sizzle, sizzle, sizzle between him and me. I felt my hair was practically standing on end. I tried so hard with him, and I just know he's interested. But he's Jamie's best friend, and he obviously doesn't want to cause trouble. He and Jamie are ever so close. Maybe they're too close, I say. Are you sure Mick isn't gay, Magda? No, of course he's not gay. Look, okay, he did just happen to let slip that he works out at the Sunrisers Club down the leisure centre. Then I should think he is gay. Straight guys don't think about their bodies half so much, says Nadine, flexing her own arms. Hey, what do you think of my muscle definition? Do you think I ought to try to develop it? Try developing your bust, darling, says Magda, sticking out her own wonder bra bosom. It's okay to be small. Lots of models are. And anyway, I could always go for a breast enhancement later, says Nadine. Sounds like you're more in need of a brain enhancement, I say sourly. And you, Magda, I'm not going to a sweaty old gym just so you can make out with this Mick. Okay, not the gym. Maybe it would be almost too obvious. Anyway, it costs a fortune. No, I thought we could go swimming. The pool opens at 7, same as the gym. Now, how about going just once? Ellie? Nadine? Then we could fetch up in the cafeteria for breakfast afterwards and surprise, surprise, there's Mick. Hopefully. Please. I don't want to go on my own. I'll stand you both breakfast afterwards. They do super raspberry Danish pastries. I'm on a diet, I snap. Looks like your little ploy's not working, Magda. You can certainly count me out. I need my beauty sleep, says Nadine. Ellie? Listen, I was reading this article about swimming, how it's the best exercise you can take because you're using every single muscle in your body, right? And if you go early in the morning, before you've eaten anything, it speeds up your metabolism so that whatever you eat after gets burnt up in double quick time. So you could eat up that raspberry Danish and not put on an ounce of weight. I know she's just shooting me a line. Yeah, maybe there's some truth in what she's saying. It sounds logical. Well, not the raspberry Danish bit, sadly. But if I could really kick-start my metabolism into superdrive every morning, it might make a real difference. Yes, Ellie, says Magda, seeing my face. I'll meet you outside the leisure centre at 7 tomorrow morning, right? Wrong, I say. How can I go swimming and show off my great white whale body to everyone? And yet, half an hour strong swimming would burn up so many calories. Just once, Ellie, please, pretty please. So I say I will, just once. I spend most of the evening peering at myself in my awful old swimming costume, convinced I cannot possibly expose myself in all my horrible wobbliness. Plus, what should I do about all my hairy bits? I try shaving under my arms, snaffling Anna's razor and cut myself, which smarts terribly. I phone Magda to call the whole thing off. She tells me that swimming tautens all your muscles and points out that even the biggest, beefiest, serious swimmer has a washboard stomach, tight bum and taut thighs. I miserably feel my flabby flesh as she speaks. I agree to go after all. I feel like death getting up at 6:15, but the cold air revives me a little. I shuffle most of the way to the leisure centre, deciding I might as well get in a little extra exercise on the way. I make good progress and get there at 3 minutes to 7, before the doors are even open. There's a little group of fitness freaks waiting, huddled into the hoods of their track tops. Magda isn't here yet. There's no dark, dishy hunk that could be Mick either. I stand in my school uniform, clutching my duffel bag, feeling horribly out of place. People will be wondering what on earth the squat, blobby schoolgirl is doing at a fitness centre. Fatness centre, more like. There's an enviably thin girl in a green tracksuit staring at me right at this minute. Ellie? I stare back, startled. The thin girl is smiling. It's Zoe Patterson. Zoe is famous at our school. She's a real brain box. She should be in year 10, but she's been put in it up a year to take all her GCSEs a year early. God knows how many she's doing. 10, 11, maybe even 12. I bet she gets, well, as in all A's in all of them. Zoe wins her form prize every year, and the art prize too. That's how I know her. We both spend a lot of time in the art room doing all sorts of stuff. And when Mrs. Lilly, the art teacher, wanted a special mural to brighten the room up, she asked Zoe and me to work on it together during our lunch hour. We hardly spoke to each other at first. I thought it was because Zoe was older than me and might be a bit snobby, but then I realised she's actually even shyer than I am. So I got up the nerve to start talking to her, and she soon got ever so friendly and funny. By the time we'd finished our mural, a crazy summer camp scene of all different creative women through time. We had Virginia Woolf, with her skirts tucked in her drawers paddling in the stream, Jane Austen in an apron peeling potatoes, or the Bronte sisters with their sleeves rolled up sizzling sausages on the barbecue, Florence Nightingale pitching a tent, Billie Holiday picking flowers, Marilyn Monroe hanging out the washing, Frida Kahlo painting pictures on her welly boots. It seemed like we were firm friends. But this school year, Zoe hasn't been coming to the art room, and whenever I bumped into her in the corridors or the cloakroom, we've just said hi and hurried on. I wondered if she'd gone off me or thought me too babyish, or was maybe just too busy to be friendly when she was swatting for all those scary exams. Hi, Zoe. I never expected to see you here, I say. I assumed Zoe thought along the same lines as me when it came to sport. I come here every day, says Zoe. Are you here to swim too? Yes. I said I'd come with Magda, you know, my friend, the blonde one, though goodness knows what she's going to get when she's going to get here. I bet she's slept in. The door's open. I say I'd better wait for Magda, so Zoe goes hurrying down to the changing room. She didn't used to be anywhere near as thin. She's got amazing cheekbones now. Her tracksuit bottom is all baggy. Zoe was never fat, not like me, but she used to be a bit pear-shaped, with a biggish bum. Hey, maybe swimming really works. I think I might start going every day too. Though not with Magda. She doesn't arrive until 20 past. Hi, Ellie. God, isn't it awful getting up this early, she mumbles. You're not early, Magda, you're late. She's not taking any notice, peering all over the place as we go into the centre and pay for our swim. Have you seen anyone that looks like Mick, Ellie? You know, dark and truly dishy? I don't know. Heaps of people have gone in. I didn't see anyone that fantastic, but we've got different taste when it comes to boys. You're telling me, says Magda. You've got Dan for a boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, I say. Well, what is he, says Magda. I don't know, I say. Dan was so keen on me it was embarrassing. We fooled around a bit together in a totally chaste sort of way, but it's not been the love match of the century, or the year, month, week, day, minute, scarcely love match of the second, though Dan's always insisted he loves me. I've never worked out whether he was totally serious. I'm even less sure now. He hasn't written to me recently, and he hasn't phoned me back since that time I phoned him and he was watching some stupid rugby match. Maybe I need a new boyfriend. Ha! Who would ever want to go out with me? Plenty of boys want to go out with Magda. I can see why she was so late getting here. She's fully made up and her hair's freshly washed and styled. She wriggles into a new slinky scarlet lycra costume. So tight it must feel like wearing a full-size elastic band. But she looks incredible. I turn my back to take off my clothes, embarrassed to strip off even in front of Magda. My hair sticks up in a giant bush. My face is all blotchy from the cold, and yet in the sudden heat inside my glasses steam up, so I can't see. It feels better when I take them off and shove them in my locker. If I can't see anyone clearly, I can kid myself that maybe they can't see me. I grope my way to the poolside and slide in as quickly as possible so that I'm hidden, up to my neck in sparkling turquoise water. It's beautifully warm, but Magda takes forever to get in, standing on the side of the pool, dipping her toes in and squealing. It's obviously just to show herself off. It works. I swim too fast in furious laps, and when I get back to the shallow end, there are 5 boys surrounding Magda, laughing and jostling and offering her advice. I swim off again. I'm trying not to mind. I'm not here to get off with boys anyway. I'm here to lose weight. So I plough backwards and forwards, 10 lengths breaststroke, 10 lengths freestyle, 10 lengths backstroke, then repeat. Thank goodness I'm quite good at swimming, so I don't look too stupid. Some of the boys are faster than me, but I'm quicker than all the women, apart from Zoe. We're about even Steven, and find we can't help racing each other. First she steams ahead, so I concentrate fiercely and push myself that little bit harder so that I'm gasping every time I take a breath. I draw closer, closer, and then I'm suddenly in front. and I whiz off even faster, but it's hard to keep up. I'm slower the next lap, floating a little, and Zoe suddenly flashes past. We carry on this mad competition and end up neck and neck, laughing at each other. "We'd better get out now, we'll be late for school," says Zoe. "Right," I say, scarcely able to draw breath. Magda got out ages ago. She was barely in. She swam about 10 measly lengths, keeping her head artificially high out of the water so that her hair wouldn't get messed up, and then she was off back to the changing room to replenish her makeup. She's hogging the mirror now, applying the finishing touches. "Right, Ellie, see you in the cafe, okay?" she says. "I don't want to miss Mick, if he's actually here." Zoe and I take a shower. We're very modest, looking away from each other as we soap ourselves under the streaming water, but once we're toweling dry and stuffing damp bodies into underwear, I take a quick glance at her when I've got my glasses on. I stare. Zoe is thin, not just slender, not even skinny. Her ribs are sticking out of her skin. Her pelvis juts alarmingly. Her arms and legs look as if they're about to snap. Zoe, I wonder if she's ill. I've never seen anyone this thin before. She looks awful. "What?" she says, looking anxious. "You've lost so much weight." "Not really. Not enough. Not yet," says Zoe. Chapter 5. Turkey Girl. I'm not stupid. I know Zoe's sick. She's obviously anorexic. She's not thin and beautiful. She's thin and sad. Thin and mad. She's starving herself. She looks like a living skeleton. There's nothing desirable about her gaunt body, her jutting bones, her beaky features. I don't want to end up like Zoe. I eat chicken and broccoli and baked potatoes for supper. I even put butter inside my potatoes and follow my first course with chocolate ice cream and extra chocolate sauce. "Thank God," says Dad. "I was so sick of that stupid diet. Have you seriously seen sense at last, Ellie?" "You bet," I say, running to the fridge and getting out a second carton of chocolate ice cream. "Me too," says Anna, getting her own bowl. It feels so wonderful to eat my meal slowly, savouring every mouthful. I feel full and warm and peaceful. I chat to Anna. I chat to Dad. I even chat to Eggs. I don't shut myself away in my bedroom after supper. I curl up on the sofa in the living room. Dad brings out his all-time favourite video, the one he loves us all to watch together when we're playing Happy Families, The Wizard of Oz. I get a little tense watching Judy Garland at first. Is she too fat or is she just fine? She's thin compared to me, but when she steps out of her little grey house into the colour of Oz, I step with her and stop worrying. I just sit back and enjoy the movie. I take Eggs up to bed singing, "Follow, follow, 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 follow the purple stair cord." And we do a little munchkin dance on the landing, his arms wound tight around my neck as I tuck him up in bed. "I love you, Ellie," he whispers. "I love you too, Eggs," I whisper back. I wonder why I'm usually so mean to him. I don't feel like being mean to anyone now. I even give myself a grin in the mirror when I go into my bedroom. I have a tiny panic when I get undressed. My full tummy looks so big. I stand sideways and peer in the mirror to see just how much it's sticking out. But then I pull my nightie on quick and jump into bed. I think about the film. I click my bare heels in their invisible ruby slippers over and over again. I try to cling to this new common sense next day at school. It's not easy. I feel so dumpy in my tight uniform. Nadine's skirt hangs so gracefully on her, in real folds. Mine is so taut it feels like my knees are tied together. Nadine's sweater is so loose. Mine is strained over the jutting shelf of my chest. I stare at everyone. They all look much thinner than me. I can't seem to help myself. I even start staring at poor huge Alison Smith and wonder if we're of similar size. I try to calm down in art. Mrs. Lilly says we can paint any kind of Christmas scene we fancy and offers us a chocolate Father Christmas as a prize for the most amusing and original effort. Magda does a glamorous male stripper wearing a few sprigs of holly in a strategic place and a silly Santa beard. Nadine paints a fashion model fairy on top of a Christmas tree. I do an extremely anxious turkey, eyes bulging, wattle quivering, beak wedged open, while a farmer shovels great spoonfuls and scoopfuls of food down its throat. It's already so fat it can barely waddle. The turkey's tail is a great fuzz of feathers. It's starting to look uncomfortably like a self-portrait. Live little sparrows fly happily about the turkey's head. 3 is the wind. I can't seem to make it funny. It's sad. "Oh dear, Ellie," says Mrs. Lilly. "Have you joined an animal rights group?" I didn't win the chocolate Father Christmas. I don't know why I mind so much. It's not as if I'd necessarily eat the chocolate anyway. Not at 529 terrible calories per 100 grams. I have gloomily inspected every kind of chocolate bar for their calorific value and then shoved them back on the shelf quickly, as if even handling them would make you fat. Mrs. Lilly is looking a little tubby lately, come to think of it. She's always been quite skinny, but now she's getting a bit of a tummy, and her waist is thicker too. Yet she looks okay in her denim shirt and waistcoat and long black skirt. She's wearing a big chunk of dark amber on a long black cord around her neck. Her eyes glow the same colour. She's looking great even though she's definitely put on a good half stone, maybe more, during this term. She doesn't seem to care. She looks really happy. I think of pale, sick, skinny Zoe. I don't really wish I looked like her, do I? Maybe I could go in for the Mrs. Lily look. Plumpish but still pretty in lovely loose clothes. Artistic. I wish I'd won the Chocolate Father Christmas. Mrs. Lily calls me over to her desk at the end of the lesson. I'm sorry you didn't get the prize, Ellie, she says. That's okay. You know I think you're really gifted at art, don't you? Thank you. I know I'm going red. I do hope I can come back long before you do your art GCSE. Come back? I'm leaving at the end of this term. Oh, Mrs. Lily, why? She smiles at me. I thought you'd guessed. I saw you staring at my tummy today. She pats it gently. I'm going to have a baby. Ooh. Yes, I didn't show for a while, but now I'm fast approaching the waddling stage. I feel like your poor Christmas turkey. I feel like bursting into tears. Cheer up, Ellie. Maybe you can come and see me sometime after I've had the baby. Maybe. Well, congratulations. I have to rush away. Mrs. Lily isn't fat. She's pregnant. My role model for a reasonable figure, still thinner than me, is probably 6 months pregnant. Oh, God. Anna is preparing a huge spag bowl when I get home from school. I can't eat that, I say, appalled. I eat half a small tub of cottage cheese, garnished with chopped cucumber and carrots. It looks and tastes disgusting, as if someone else has already eaten it and thrown it up. The smell of spaghetti bolognese makes me feel faint, but I manage to hold out. Somehow, if only I could seal my lips with superglue, then I'd feel really safe. I even dream about it at night and wake up sucking my own hand. I curl up tight and clasp myself. I mustn't creep down to the kitchen and raid the fridge. I daren't have another stuff my face session because Anna might hear if I make myself sick. I'm scared of getting really bulimic. I read an article in Nadine's Spicy magazine. She's its most avid reader now. And it says if you keep throwing up, the acid rots your teeth. This famous model went through a 6-month spell of being sick, to keep in trim for her fashion work, and now she's had to have a full set of false teeth fitted. Thank goodness I'm naturally slim, Nadine says smugly, reading over my shoulder. I make sick noises myself. Nadine isn't half getting on my nerves at the moment. I ask her privately what she thinks of Zoe, pointing her out in assembly. How do you mean? Well, don't you think she's sort of weird now? I don't want to prompt Nadine in any way. I want her honest opinion. Zoe's always been weird. She's such a swot. All those prizes every year. Why doesn't she get a life? Nadine says heartlessly. Yes, but don't you think she looks weird now, I say. Haven't you noticed? She's got a lot thinner. Nadine glances at Zoe again. She's bunched up in her baggy school uniform. Her skirt's much longer than anyone else's, and she's wearing very thick woolly tights. There isn't really much of her on show. I suppose she's got a bit skinny, yeah, says Nadine, as if it's no big deal. Maybe it isn't. Maybe Zoe is a perfect size now. After all, she really did have a biggish bum before, but now she's worked as hard as always and she's won the slimming stakes too. I struggle to remember exactly what she looks like without her clothes. Different size Zoes dance in my head, like reflections in a crazy mirror show. I can't work out which is the right one. I need to know. Coming swimming tomorrow, Magda, I say. There's not much point. Mick wasn't there, was he, says Magda. Still, look at all those other boys who started chatting you up. They were okay, I suppose. Larry, the fair one, asked me out as a matter of fact. I said I might meet up with him this weekend. When, says Nadine. Oh, Mags, you've got to help me with my hair and my makeup and everything. It's the spicy heat. You still like Mick best, don't you? I persist. Come swimming tomorrow. You come too, Nadine. You want to be in good shape for Saturday. Yes, but I don't want my hair all mucked up with chlorine, says Nadine. And I'm trying to get 8 hours sleep every night this week. I don't want bags under my eyes. I can't get up ultra early. Magda can't get up ultra early either. She keeps me hanging around outside the pool for ages. Zoe arrives when I do, jogging along the path, her face screwed up with concentration. She carries on jogging on the spot while she's in the queue, as if her trainers are fitted with springs. How can you be so energetic so early in the morning, Zoe, I say. I've been up since 5, says Zoe, panting a little. What? I have to get everything done. I do some stretching and some sit-ups and then an hour's studying. I'm desperate to get my own exercise bike at home, and then I could set up my book so I could read and work out. It's mad. My mum and dad are forking out a fortune to spend Christmas in this posh hotel in Portugal, and I begged them to let me stay at home, and with the money they save on my fare, they could buy me the bike. But they won't listen. Zoe talks faster than she used to, as if her thoughts have speeded up. My dad's just doing this to spite me. He's admitted it. He wants to fatten me up. He's sick. I wish I had the courage to contradict her. She's the one who's sick, only she can't see it. Or is she? She's extremely fit, so she must be healthy. She's top of her class, best at everything, especially art. Do you still paint, Zoe? Well, just my GCSE work. You don't do any art just for fun? You know, like when we did that mural together in the art room. Zoe shakes her head, looking pitying. I don't really have time for that sort of stuff nowadays, she says, as if I'm a toddler wondering why she won't do finger painting with me. She disappears inside the pool. I hang around waiting for Magda. I see a tall, dark, hunky guy in a very stylish black sweatsuit go through to the gym. I wonder if he's Mick. I can't really ask. The bunch of the boys who were all over Magda the other day are here too. The fair one asked me where my friend is. She's coming, I say. One of them mutters and they all snigger. I blush, hating them. I'm not going to stand about any longer. Why should I always wait hours for Magda? And I must see Zoe. I push past the boys and go through to the changing rooms. Zoe is already undressed, bending over her bag looking for her goggles. Her back is alarmingly ridged with her vertebrae. It looks as if her spine could snap straight through her skin. She hasn't got any flesh anywhere. I can see all the cords and tendons in her legs as she stretches. She straightens up and I see there's a gap between her thighs now, so that she looks bow-legged. When she reaches up to put on her goggles, her breasts are two little puckers on her rib cage, nothing more. There are great ugly grooves around her throat and collarbone. Her face is so shrunken and in on itself, you can see the shape of her skull. She is seriously starving herself to death. But when she shivers through the shower, raising her fragile arms, her tummy totally flat in her skin-tight lycra costume, I still feel a stab of envy. I must lose weight. I want to be thin. All right, not as thin as Zoe, not sick. But she showed me you can change yourself. Last year Zoe might have been nearly my size. Now she's much thinner than Magda. Thinner than Nadine. Thinner than anyone I've ever seen, apart from those poor starving children you see on the news on television. I'm going to be thin too. It's simple. I just won't eat. And yet all the time I'm thrashing up and down the pool, I think Danish pastry, golden, succulent, oozing jam. Magda turns up at last, in her strawberry swimsuit and matching red waterproof lipstick. She smiles her oh-so-jammy smile, and all the boys hurtle down to her end of the pool and surround her. When I can get her on her own for half a second, I tell her that a guy exactly her description of Mick is busy pumping iron in the gym. Magda's own muscles clench excitedly. Great, well, we'll get out soon, right, and go for breakfast. There's no point coming here and swimming like crazy just to make myself even fatter, I say. You're not fat, Magda says automatically. Then she glances down at me as I hunch under the turquoise water. And you're getting thinner now anyway. What, really? How much thinner? Or are you just saying it to get around me? Ellie, you're paranoid. Yes, you're thinner. How much weight have you lost? Only about 5 pounds so far. Well, there you go. You look 5 pounds thinner. That's heaps. So you can come and have a yummy Danish pastry with me and help me go Mick spotting. There, I knew you were just saying it. It's true, look, you're going to be seriously anorexic if you're not careful. You'll end up a bag of bones like that poor sad Zoe. You think Zoe's almost too thin then? I ask eagerly. Magda stares at me. Wake up, Ellie. She looks terrible. I'm amazed they don't cart her straight off to hospital. I don't know how her parents can let her get like that. Her dad's taking her away at Christmas to feed her up. He'll have to give her 20 meals a day then. She's like a skeleton. Magda drops her voice as Zoe zips to our end of the pool and hauls herself up the steps. I stare at her stick limbs. She's shivering, her hands pale purple with the cold. I watch the papery skin across her ribs as she gasps for breath. I know Magda is right, and yet I jog to school with Zoe rather than have breakfast in the cafe with Magda. Zoe might be seriously ill, but she's far fitter than me. I'm staggering in agony by the time I go to school. Mrs. Henderson finds me in a state of collapse on the cloakroom floor. Ellie, what is it? I'm just out of breath. I thought you were having an asthma attack. Have you been running? And you're not even late for school. I've run all the way from the leisure centre, I gasp. My goodness, I think I need to sit down, Eleanor. Allard, on a fitness kick? I've actually never felt less fit in my life, I say, clutching my chest. I think I'm having a heart attack. Maybe you need to come to my lunchtime aerobic session, says Mrs. Henderson. Okay, maybe I will, I say. It'll burn off 200 or 300 calories and stop me craving lunch. It's a special lunch today, the cook's traditional Christmas dinner treat for the end of term. Turkey, 1 chipolata sausage, 2 roast potatoes, a dollop of mash and garden peas, and then mincemeat tart with a blob of artificial cream. We're talking mega calories per trayful. I can't risk setting foot inside the canteen. I go to the aerobic session. It's hell. Total burning hellfire. I feel such a fool amongst all the seriously fit muscle girls leaping about in their luminous lycra. I stand behind Zoe, who is bunched up in a huge t-shirt and tracksuit bottoms. She looks hopelessly weak and weedy, but she's fighting fit. She never misses a beat, her lips in a tight line of effort. I get so hot I can't see out my glasses, and the spring goes out of my hair. I've got such a stitch, I have to fight not to double up. I still try to swing my arms and stamp my legs, but they've turned to jelly. "Take 2 minutes break, Ellie," Mrs. Henderson calls. I crash to the floor. Gasp, gasp, gasp. But I'm not going to lose any weight lying here going wibble-wobble. I drag myself up and get going again. I last to the end of the session. Just. I've got to take a shower, obviously, but I seriously hate the school showers because there aren't any curtains at all. I hunch in a corner trying to keep my back to everyone, taking envious peeks at all the taut thighs and flat tummy surrounding me. Zoe avoids this ordeal. She runs off in her sweaty t-shirt, clutching a sponge bag, obviously going to have a little wash in the toilets. I shove my school uniform over my sticky pink blancmange body as quickly as possible. Mrs. Henderson catches hold of me. "Can I have a word, Ellie? Come in my changing room." Oh God, the only things I've been invited into her inner sanctum is to get severely told off for pretending to have a permanent heavy period to get me out of games. She's surely not going to tell me off for volunteering for extra games. So, Ellie, what's going on? First it's swimming, then running, now aerobics. Why? You told me to come along this lunchtime. I was joking, though it was certainly a pleasant surprise when you turned up, but I just wonder what you're playing at, Ellie. I told you, I'm trying to get fit. I thought you'd be thrilled to bits, Mrs. Henderson. You're always nagging at me to take more exercise, so I am. Do you want to get fit, Ellie, or thin? What? I'm not stupid. I know why poor Zoe comes to aerobics. I'm very worried about her. I've tried talking to her umpteen times, and her parents. She's obviously severely anorexic, but I want to talk about you, Ellie, not Zoe. You can hardly call me anorexic, Mrs. Henderson, I say, looking down at my body with loathing. I'm fat. You've lost weight recently. Only a few pounds, hardly anything. You've done very well, but you mustn't lose weight too rapidly. You girls go on all these crazy diets, but all you really have to do is cut down on all the sweets and chocolate and crisps and eat sensibly. Lots of fresh fruit, vegetables, fish, chicken, pasta. You are eating a reasonably balanced diet, aren't you, Ellie? Yes, Mrs. Henderson. 1 apple, 2 sticks of celery, half a tub of cottage cheese, 1 Rivita, fruit, veg, protein, carbohydrate. Brilliantly balanced. Because you're a perfectly healthy, normal, ordinary size, Ellie. Ordinary? For an elephant. I mean it. What's brought all this on, Mrs. Henderson looks at me. It wouldn't have anything to do with Nadine suddenly acting as if she's the second Kate Moss. No, I say, perhaps a little too fiercely. Do you want to be a fashion model, Ellie? Says Mrs. Henderson. Me? I say, snorting at the idea. How could I ever get to be a model? OK, I could staple my lips together for good and starve myself slim, but what could I do with my mane of frizzy hair, my little owl glasses, my dumpy 5'2" physique? Mrs. Henderson misunderstands the true meaning of my snort. Ah, at least you haven't dieted away your basic common sense, Ellie. You seem to share my feelings about fashion models and their ludicrous strutting and vacant posing. Why can't girls ache to be scientists or surgeons? Count me out, Mrs. Henderson. I come nearly bottom in science, and I can't stand the sight of blood, so I doubt I'd make a very good surgeon either. You're going to be an artist, says Mrs. Henderson. I blink at her, going red. What do you mean? I stammer. I didn't have a clue Mrs. Henderson knew I even liked art. We teachers do talk amongst ourselves, you know. It sounds as if you're Mrs. Lily's pet pupil. Yes, but she's leaving. Then you'll doubtless be the new art teacher's pet pupil too, says Mrs. Henderson. She'll probably think I can't draw for toffee, I say. Stupid word. I think of soft, gooey, buttery brown toffee, and my mouth drips with saliva. Do I like toffee best or fudge? No, nougat, the sort with the cherries. I open my lips and imagine chewing a huge sticky slab of nougat. Ellie, are you listening to me? Says Mrs. Henderson. Yes, of course, I say, swallowing my imaginary sweets. Don't worry, Mrs. Henderson. I swear, I don't want to be a model. I couldn't care less about Nadine and her big chance. Honestly.